I'm looking live in the Blue Zone here, setting up for the Bill Belichick press conference. I'm on site right now. Just got in Chapel Hill from the drive from Greensboro.
That is, I'm sure you can feel the excitement and energy in all of this. So walk me through you've been around Chapel Hill a long time. You know that the football. Well, we should be better, but we're not. What do you think? What do you think was the tipping point in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing on this is the commitment to football that's going to come from this, whether that's, the fruition is going to be in 2 or 3 years or down the line. But I mean, UNC is upping their NIL. They're going to completely change their infrastructure for recruiting and scouting. And I think Bill Belichick is giving UNC football the kick in the butt they needed to play big ball football and get ready for a move to a bigger conference, SEC or Big Ten, when that happens in 10 years. Because they don't have the war chest now to compete at that level. So this, beyond hiring a very experienced and championship and unbelievable football coach in the NFL, what this means long-term in terms of how it's going to affect the football program from a financial standpoint, infrastructure, operations, I think that's kind of going to be the lasting legacy of this hire as a turning point and an inflection point for UNC football. It's crazy, I think the money that's coming in right now. I think they got some big-time donors involved, including a rumor I hear, Mr. Michael Jordan as well.
Well, I mean, Mr. Michael Jordan certainly has deep pockets and a lot of pleats. He is single-handedly trying to keep pleated pants a thing. Ross Martin, the Big Hitters Only podcast, and, of course, with 24/7 Sports as well. You're not the first person who's mentioned a bigger conference. I know what was said during, Board of Trustees and Board of Governors meetings earlier this summer about, North Carolina's got to get out of the ACC. Do you really think that the future of North Carolina is in an SEC or a Big Ten, or is the future of college sports completely devoid of those conferences anyway, and it is simply a flat-out minor league for the NFL?
We're talking Bill Belichick. Yeah, I mean, this is a huge question. I think eventually it goes to like a 2-conference model similar to the NFL with, the National Football League, the AFC and the NFC.
Yeah.
And I think eventually it's going to be kind of what the Big Ten is now and what the SEC is now is going to add more players. So UNC, I think, is the top choice for that. And so when they get the call up, whenever this grant of rights is done, they need to be ready. And so I think they need – there's no way right now that UNC can compete at a level of a Georgia or a Bama or even like a Texas A&M or like an Auburn or even like an Ole Miss. But it's just the difference in money is so big. So this move here, I think, is putting your foot in the sand and digging in and investing and building and just getting this to where it's going with the NIL and with making it more of a pro model to compete in this evolving world of college football. I think this is the right time for it because it is so similar to pro football now with the money involved in recruiting. It's not all about relationships and hitting the ground and seeing the players the most. It's about money. And, the transfer portal is such a huge part of that as well. So it is about scouting and finding diamonds in the rough. And I think that's what the NFL experience that Belichick brings is scouting and finding players and then developing them too. And I think his NFL experience is going to be attractive to a lot of players who want to get to the NFL. I mean, his pitch on the McAfee show, I'm sure you've seen that, and it was talked about a bunch about how making it like a breeding ground for NFL players, and that's attractive. I mean, a lot of people, all they talk about is getting to the NBA or getting to the NFL. That's the most important thing. So if this guy is going to give them the best chance to do that, I think that's going to help a lot in recruiting.
Ross Martin, Big Hitters Only podcast, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. To that end, I'm not sure that North Carolina can't compete with teams in the SEC based on the level of coaching. I'm going to use Mario Cristobal as an example here, but Cristobal is a recruiter. I don't believe that Cristobal and maybe even many coaches on his staff, which are probably more recruiter leaning than coaching, in quotes, leaning, I don't know that they would be able to compete in terms of the schemes, preparation, training that a Belichick-led coaching staff would be able to provide. And if players see that investment in them, why can't North Carolina, with a $20 million annual investment in NIL, why can't they compete with a Georgia, Alabama, SMU's completely funded privately. They're getting no money from the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the field is the least of concerns now. I think there's going to be a massive improvement in on the field, X's and O's, game prep, advanced scouting of the opponent, preparing day to day. All that stuff is going to be a massive improvement from what it was under Mac Brown. I mean, that is why that's not even a concern. I think when you make this hire, that's why a big part of why you do it. But I think on the field they have one of the best tacticians leading the charge now in Bill Belichick. I think the concerns is a little bit of the recruiting stuff, and obviously this is a little bit of a short-sighted hire in some respects, knowing his age.
Yeah.
I think it's a 3 or 4 year deal, but if you can get to 9 or 10 wins in year 2 and then compete for an ACC championship and college football playoff appearance in year 3, I think that's kind of the goal and where this, in the most optimistic way, is heading.
Indiana hired Curt Cignetti, brought in like half of the roster from JMU and went 11-1. Then they played nobody. The only game they played against a good team, they lost, and they lost convincingly. But they're in the college football playoff. I ain't putting anything past Bill Belichick. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I will be surprised by nothing regarding how this is going to happen. What are your expectations in terms of how Bill, and I guess we're going to have to close on this, but what are your expectations on how Bill will embrace being a college head coach? Do you think he will embrace it as a college head coach at all, or will he simply treat this as, I am a pro coach at the college level?
I think that is the most interesting thing about, I was talking with your boy Ovius. Is he going to do the top of the hill every Monday show?
No,
is he gonna
he's
go
not.
around to, there's Rams Club in the summer, there's Rams Club meetings, like a tour they do with the basketball coach and the baseball coach and Courtney Bankhart. Is he going to be going to all the different small towns to meet with all the donors who are giving, $20K to the Rams Club? Is he going to be going around to fraternities and coaches have done that in the past in Carolina to just ramp up support. I don't see that.
Nope.
So it's very interesting to see what colleges. Yeah, there's a lot of fun parts of being a college coach and kind of embracing the school spirit stuff. But I see this. He's going to be, in the office. I think recruiting is going to almost be outsourced to a certain extent with this whole GM and GM staff and a whole scouting department that's completely separate from the in-game stuff. So I think he's going to be focused on preparing for games, being very much of a CEO, and getting players ready, and then just working with the players and the guys that are given to him, and maybe closing some recruiting deals. But I think because of his stature, he has a lot of wiggle room and won't have to do a lot of the things that a 40-year-old coach like a John Summerall would have to have done during his tenure at UNC too. I think it's such a different thing, and because of the weight he carries as a head coach, and the 6 Super Bowl rings he can show people.
Is Steven Belichick part of this deal?
That's what everybody says. I don't know. I'm not sourced up to that depth.
Right. If he is, Steven Belichick's going to get all those assignments.
Exactly. And you're going to see, I think we're going to see a lot of people he's worked with the Patriots, who's the old Denver Broncos head coach and the
Josh McDaniel.
I've heard a rumor of that today, that he's going to be the OC.
Matt Patricia. Yeah, I can see all of it.
It's a lot of guys with not a lot of charisma, not a lot of personality, so it's a little concerning on the recruiting side.
But I don't think they're going to recruit. I think you hit on it maybe without realizing it. I think there's going to be a recruiting side and a coaching side, and I don't think those two. I think the Venn diagram is going to be two completely different circles. Ross Martin, Big Hitters Only podcast. Check it out. just going on what you told me, your array of guests is top drawer. So tell everybody who's on it that you will see today that I said hello, and I appreciate your time, man. Ross Martin, NC, on Twitter. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Victoria.
You got it. He said thank you to you. Did you hear?
That was very sweet of him.
Very nice by Ross.